a biblical perspective on life, culture and current events. This is 2020 on Vision.
Well, let's turn our attention back to some thoughts on how you make your life a little bit more comfortable. Sometimes our workplaces are chaotic. Sometimes you get home at the end of the day and your home with family is chaotic too. Sometimes you're a part of a church and things go awry and a little bit of chaos comes in there. Well, we're back to talking about behaviour management and leadership today with Tarun Stevenson. He helps organisations with behaviour management and leadership coaching. He's a best-selling author with over a decade of experience in leadership coaching, and he's back with us. Hey, Tarun, welcome back to 2020.
Great to be back, Neil.
Tarun, when you are a leader, you've got to regulate your emotions and tone things down because people will respond to you in the way that you respond to them. So being calm yourself is going to be one of those keys.
Absolutely.
Now, when you're in the workplace and you're relating with the people that you're working with, or you're at home and it's your kids who are bouncing off the walls, or if you're in church life and things are just not going as smoothly as you think, I guess communication skills become very, very important here. We need to brush up on our communication skills, don't we?
Great. Absolutely. The ability to communicate with others is essential for successful relationships.
Let's start with communication skills then. So if everything's going bad, there are storms at home or in your workplace or in your local church, where do you start to fine-tune your communication skills?
Sure. So, look, that could take a myriad of different forms depending on the type of communication you're trying to do. But let's assume it's communicating with your colleagues or your co-workers and you've got somebody that is unregulated or distressed. One of the simplest things you can do is just to ask them how they are. How are you? You're looking stressed today. Do you want to talk about it? Is there something I can help you with? If we take an interest in the person rather than what's going on or what you're trying to work on or what you need from them, if we take an interest in the person first, it helps to take barriers down. People who are stressed are also defensive, and they're often reluctant to talk about the thing you want to talk about. But if you can start from a place of where they are at, that can help to remove defenses. Okay,
so being the empathetic leader, someone who can put themselves in the shoes of the employee. I mean, sometimes employee arrangements are very transactional.
Sure.
We're paying you to do a job.
Yeah.
Stop complaining, just do what you're paid to do.
Yeah.
That doesn't always work at home. It doesn't always work in your local church where those relational elements have to actually bring out that empathy. So just simply asking the question, how are you? That's a good way to just tone down something that actually could turn nasty.
Yeah, and I have a rule of thumb when I talk to somebody and I ask, how are you? Because the standard response, especially with Australians, is, how are you? I'm fine, thanks. And that can really shut a conversation down. And so I have a rule with myself is I want to ask at least 5 questions before I offer any kind of response. Tell me about your day. What are you working on? Another great way to open up conversation is to talk about something completely unrelated to what they might be frustrated about. So something simple like, I found this amazing coffee shop on the weekend. If I know that they like coffee, it's because it's not what they expect you to talk to them about, it disarms them and it gets them listening to you. And then you can build rapport through talking about something of familiar value before you get into the more complex or tougher conversation.
And if you've been the transactional leader with expectations and I don't care how your weekend was, you're here to do a job, no doubt your staff are going to be a little bit suspicious of you when you start to say, Oh, how was your weekend? Did you go to that coffee shop I mentioned? So I imagine this is a rapport building exercise where you're starting small and you're growing a relationship with the people that you're working with or that you're serving with.
Yeah, I think you can't be disingenuous. You have to really care about wanting to know how people are. And it always works better if you do it consistently. It can't be just a one-off. There's a story I put in my second book, Karma Leadership, where in another life I was a sales manager in a call center, and we were the highest performing sales team in the organization. We were winning all the incentives, and I was, king of the sales, if you like. I went on leave. Our second baby was born. I had a few weeks off, and I came back to Mutiny, where my team was saying that they didn't want me as a leader. My assistant leader was trying to get me kicked out. And so I sat down with the team, and I'm like, what's going on? I thought we were good. I thought everybody loved being in the best team in the organization. And finally, one of my team said to me, Tarun, we like you as a leader, but we want you to care about us as people before you care about sales, because all I cared about was sales. It's like, how many have you made today? What have you done? She said, just ask us how our weekend is, and we'll keep selling for you. And it was a real wake-up call for me, because I was a young leader then, and it made me realize that it doesn't matter how good your team is or how well you perform. If you don't take an interest in the person, you won't hold them for very long.
What about the sorts of expectations that the team has? Because, sometimes we come into a workplace and somebody sets up a position description. Sometimes it's like, could you have thought of anything else to get on that? Because there's a whole lot of things on there. But those sorts of expectations, do they actually help us or hinder us in having good communication within our workplace?
It's a tricky balance as a leader, because ultimately you hire somebody to do a job, and so it requires you to very clearly state what's expected, and you need to hold people accountable. And anyone who's worth their salt, when they take a new job, they need to be diligent in how they work for the organization that has hired them. But John Maxwell very famously says that people don't leave organizations, they leave leaders, and the rapport that they have with their leader will determine how hard they work for that leader. And so as a leader, you can't underestimate the power of the relationship. It can't just be about the money, because eventually there will never be enough money in the world for somebody to work for a leader they don't get along with.
Okay, AI is here. If you are a leader, and sometimes, you send that email and people are taking offense at it because you've been too heavy-handed and they're reading between the lines.
Yes.
Is there a way that this modern technology using AI might actually transform the way we communicate with one another in the workplace?
Well, you've asked the right person, because I love AI. I use it all the time. And one of the ways that it helps me is as a busy leader, I can be very short and to the point in my email and text communications. I'm just one word, yes, no, can you get this done? And what I've realized is I have to soften my tone. Even if I know what I'm saying, the tone of voice is lost in text communication. And so to just use AI to soften the tone, if you're not good at doing that yourself, it can be very powerful in communicating empathy, communicating emotion, communicating rapport, which is so critical for building teams that want to work with you.
So you're a leader, you're regulating your own emotions, you're calming down, maybe you're smiling a little more than you used to, even if everyone's not performing to the same level as you had anticipated. But if you're communicating in a different way, transforming your leadership style because you're becoming a good communicator, what happens here? Because you're minimizing misunderstandings. Is it misunderstandings that sometimes cause the greatest sort of, divisions in the workplace? So if you minimize those understandings, are you actually going to look forward to a calmer work environment, maybe even a more profitable work environment?
I mean, this is a big topic, but I'm a big advocate of clear expectations and ways of working. If you have clear systems and processes and expectations, it minimizes conflict, because naturally as people, we will opt to work in a way that feels comfortable for us. So if I come from another organization that has a different value system, different way of working, I'm going to automatically do what I'm familiar with, but that's going to clash with a new organization who has different values and different ways of working. And so the best thing I can do as a leader for my team is to say, hey, here are the clear guidelines of how we operate in this organization. And as long as you follow them, we're going to get along just fine. It's a little bit like it's how McDonald's can have 37,000 restaurants run by 16-year-olds. They have very clear procedures that ensure everybody does the same thing and gets the same consistency. And so as long as you've got clear boundaries and expectations marked out, it will minimize that conflict that so often happens through natural human interaction.
And Tarun, as a Christian believer, and, we're familiar with the golden rule, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. That golden rule as something that is part of the essence of the leader. Yeah. Is that a contagious thing too, do you think? Others will see that in you and then they begin to put that into practice in their own working life?
Yeah, I absolutely think the golden rule is a great guiding principle. I think for me, and perhaps for many people who use the golden rule as a standard, is if you are a particularly empathetic or kind person, it can move towards being almost too tolerant of behavior that's inappropriate. And what leaders who are empathetic tend to do is they tend to overlook behavior that is unacceptable or inappropriate. And this is a journey I've had to go on as a leader myself, is learning how to have necessary and direct conversations in a way that are not harsh, they're not demeaning to a person, but they are essential to keeping the consistent expectation in play. If we overlook misbehavior or we overlook inconsistent behavior, we create bigger problems for ourselves down the road.
Okay, so it's regulating our emotions, staying calm in order to bring some calm, having some expectations that that your staff know what you're thinking even before you've said anything. Those sorts of boundaries are going to be very important, and also not necessarily being too soft because you're a Christian leader. Sometimes, as you say, you can tend to have a softness about you, or you think that being nice is being Christian,
yes.
But actually having those expectations is going to be very powerful.
Absolutely.
Tarun Stevenson, he's an authority on organisations with behaviour difficulties. He works through behaviour management problems, and he's a leadership coach. He's a best-selling author with over a decade of experience in leadership coaching. He's written 3 books: Behaviour Management Essentials for Leaders, for Teachers, Calmer Leadership, Managing Difficult People, and Calming the ADHD Storm, a guide for parents. You can connect with Tarun at tarunstevensonleadershipcoaching.com. There's another website called calmerclassrooms.today. And you can connect with Tarun because he's also pastor of Authentic Church in Loganlea in Queensland, authenticchurch.com.au. Tarun, thanks so much for sharing your insights with us once again today on 2020.
Great to be with you, Neil.
Thanks for taking time to listen to this audio on demand from Vision Christian Media. To find out more about us, go to vision.org.au.